So now we understand the hydrocephalus. What is hydrocephalus? Because we want to go into the interior of that constitution, of that suffering human being which is in front of us. So what is hydrocephalus? Hydrocephalus is the abnormal accumulation of CSF in the ventricles and cavities of the brain. This maintain the increased intracranial pressure inside the skull and may cause progressive enlargement of head. So cerebrospinal fluid is increased in the ventricles of the brain and causing hydrocephalus. So these are the ventricles, two lateral ventricles joined with the third ventricle, and third ventricle joined with the fourth ventricle, and the CSF is there to protect and nourish the brain cells. As the blood is the medium to the cells in the brain, there is CSF and blood. Both are the medium to the cells. So this is the brain structure. So from where the CSF is released? CSF is secreted by the ependymal cells of choroid plexus along the walls of the ventricle. So see, the red is the choroid plexus. It is a special kind of cells that filter the blood to the ventricles. They allow only the micromolecules, the ions, the water, the glucose to move into the ventricles to the as a cerebrospinal fluid. And this is the blood vessel, endothelial cell of the blood vessel, and there are tight gates in the ependymal cells that allow only the micromolecules to the as a cerebrospinal fluid, the water, the ions, the glucose that nourish the brain and balance the pressure of the brain. So according to Hammer, according to conventional medicine, the ependymal cells are the type of glial cells. The glial cells, the supporting cells of the brain, the supporting cells to the neurons. Which are the supportive cell to the neurons? But the evolutionary embryology, Dr. Hammer explained that ependymal cells developed from the intestinal cells of the gut, having absorptive and secretory properties. The function of the intestinal cell is to absorb or to secrete some enzymes for the digestion. The ependymal cells are the representation of intestinal cells. So there is only a property absorptive or secretory. And this property represent the mind. So this is the pathway of CSF. So there are many reasons of the hydrocephalus. And this is the pathway, lateral ventricle to third ventricle to fourth ventricle to the subarachnoid space around the brain and to the central canal of the spinal cord. And from here, this whole spinal fluid, cerebrospinal fluid, drain into venous sinuses. From there, that goes into heart and lungs, the whole process to the arterial, from the heart to the arterial blood, and from that arterial blood again filtered through ependymal cells to the lateral ventricles, third ventricle, and fourth ventricle. So now what is the reason? The reason to produce hydrocephalus. As we understand that ependymal cells are the having absorptive and secretory properties. So the conflict is, so what is the character of the intestine? What is the character of the GIT? To take in and take out. So it is the morsel, the food, the morsel we take in and we take out. And the same represent in the brain, the intestine of the brain, the ependymal cells is the morsel. Now here the morsel is figurative. The morsel is some thought. The morsel is some bad thought, some fearful thought, some disturbed thought. So not able to let a morsel flow in if right side is involved, and not able to let a morsel flow out if the left side is involved. So morsel in and morsel out through left side. So we take in through the right side and we take out through the left. So morsel can be any person. We understand this through the case. It can be money, it can be property, it can be loved ones, a home, anything that is surrounding you, anything that is the medium for you. Some bad words, some insults, some harsh words by someone, and your brain, your soul, your brain is not taken. If he taken, he is not able to release that thought. That thought is fixed there. Results of interviews or exams. Anything that is not liked by the Constitution, but we are not liked. Out of fear, or out of any sensitivity. So we are sensitive, we are fearful, something out there. There is strong resistance to act. So we are not in the free-flowing state. Everybody having their own resistances, own perceptions of the life, that we are not able to act freely. Second, this is the first cause of the hydrocephalus, the overproduction of the cerebrospinal fluid by the ependymal cells due to some morsel that is not able to take in or not able to take out. The psychology, we understand the psychology. The other causes of the hydrocephalus is some tumor around the ventricle that obstruct the pathway of the ventricle. So whenever there is a situation like this, then we take the consideration of the place of that tumor, the which place that tumor is existing and causing obstruction to the flow of the cerebrospinal fluid. The first is brain edema in the control center of kidney parenchyma caused obstruction to the cerebral aqueduct, too much water or fluid conflict. So there is the conflict behind this, the kidney parenchyma is disturbed. So the control center in the brain that controlling that kidney parenchyma having edema, and that edema causing the obstruction to the flow. What is the conflict behind this? Water or fluid conflict. Water or fluid conflict is too much of fluid. There is some flooding. There is overproduction of the fluid in the body, the ascites. I have a patient, she had cervical cancer, and along with cervical cancer, she had the problem increased creatinine and urea. So kidney is involved because of too much fluid of the cervix. There is overproduction of the leukorrhea that she changes 3 to 4 thick pads. So this causes a fearful state in that constitution. So now here we consider this the threatful condition due to his already existing condition. The two conflict is switched on. The cervix cancer means the separation conflict, and there is fluid conflict that causing a fearful state for the patient. Second is the swelling in the brain relay of the lung alveoli, compress the fourth ventricle and causing hydrocephalus. So there is hydrocephalus and involvement of the lung alveoli, but the primary cause is lung involvement of lung alveoli. The same cell derived from the intestinal cells, and the conflict is again the morsel not able to catch the air morsel or the elimination of the air morsel. So there is, when not catch the air morsel, there is suffocation, means death fright conflict. The state that is very terrible, the death fright, diagnosis of major disease or same hearing some news or some loss of property, some loss of house, there is a big loss in the property, the death of someone. Next is the brain edema involving thalamus might block the third ventricle. The conflict behind the thalamus is self-abandonment, complete resignation. Self-abandonment, complete resignation. There is no one to take care of me. I am nothing. I am useless. Any overwhelmed stress with activation of sympathetic nervous system. Brain edema in the control center of myocardium block the third ventricle, and the conflict of the myocardium is overwhelming emotion. The principle of mine, this is mine, I am very attached to this. And when there is emotion, when there is someone separated, the death of someone, it is it is mine. I am overly attached with this child, with my partner, with my brother or sister, with my parents. I am over attached with this house. So when that is separated, there is the pathologies of myocardium. So common cause of the brain edema due to water retention in relation to abandonment or existence conflict. So whenever there is disease processes, whenever there is alteration in the health, along with this, the fluid accumulation process of the body triggered, and this causes edema in the brain or even sometime in the body to make feel safe to the whole organism. So here is the reason of hydrocephalus for our patient. The intrauterine causes hearing conflict, any loud noise, sudden ringtone, ultrasound procedure sound, any yelling or screaming. Why loud noise during the pregnancy hit the interior of the soul? Because in the old time, the loud noise of the drums is to indicate there is some danger outside. There is some war outside. So that automatically inherited by the constitution till the time. Every time there is when we are in a fearful condition, the bell rang and there is some yelling, the conflict triggered. Existence conflict, death fright conflict due to hearing loud noises, separation conflict with abandonment conflict. So there can be any conflict, separation conflict, means someone is separated, or existence conflict means there is some threatful condition that we are here to save or not.